Hey, this is AJ. Welcome back to the Handyman process. In today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into Markate, a CRM tool that I use to manage my handyman business. I have some older videos on this topic, but I wanted to do kind of a side by side. So on your screen, you're seeing the mobile version here as I scroll back and forth, plus the desktop version. I primarily use the mobile version, so I'll be talking mostly to that, but I'll touch on some points here as I go through, so stay tuned. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, my name is AJ, and this is the Handyman process. I make videos from a part-time handyman perspective, going over the business process and tools that I use within my business to just automate things. So the primary tool that I use within my business, my customer relations management tool, is Markate, what you're seeing here on your screen. If you've never seen this, it may be a little bit overwhelming. I would recommend going to markate.com, doing a little bit of research. They have free trials and whatnot. I'll put a link down below bottom if you want to try out. I think it's a 2-week trial to check it out. But I wanted to give you a perspective of both the mobile app that you see over here and the desktop version. 99.9% of the time, I'm using the mobile version, the one that you're seeing over on this side here. Every once in a while, there's a few things that you can't do in a mobile that I'll touch on this side and go into that. If you're running a big business, more than likely you will be more time on the desktop and your text will be more time on the app. So it's important to know both sides depending on where you are within your business. But within this video, I want to give just kind of an overview of what's in here, assuming that you've kind of never used it before. So I'm going to kind of touch the wave tops, kind of explain what the different functions are, how I use them, and maybe some recommendations if you decide to get into this, kind of how to get started. So what you're seeing on on the mobile app version side right now, as soon as you log in, it comes up. When you register, your business name will pop up. I'm Greenshire Handyman. Same thing if you're on the desktop version, you come in here to the dashboard side, you'll see the same thing, right? So if I dig into the dashboard on my personal side, you'll see like today I got a job coming up this afternoon for $452. I can go back and I can look at older reports. I personally don't use Markate very much for reporting purposes. I do that through my banking app. But you could scroll through here. You can get a sense of your dashboards, what they look like, especially if you're running a lot of different jobs. It may be useful to you. So that's the first feature. And I apologize. I'm running both screens here. So if I'm trying to touch something with something else, I may be on the wrong screen. So please just bear with me as I kind of go through this. Okay. So the next feature that I'll go over, I'll just mention expenses. I don't track my expenses in here, but if you did want to track your expenses, I have some recurring fixed expenses to run the business, website development, business operations. These are just autopilot things that I set up a long time ago and haven't turned off. You can kind of see what it looks like in the app, and if I come over here to this side, you'll kind of see what it looks like on this side. If you do want to use it for tracking expenses, it's a very manual process for the things that don't recur over and over again. So if you have monthly bills, you can kind of set all that stuff on autopilot. But if you want to do job costing and other types of features, you can come in here and you got to kind of do it manually. So if you have a bookkeeper or somebody on your end that wants to do that, it's a great feature because if you decide to use something called their job costing feature, which is a new feature that they released, it really gives you some good insight on a per job basis how much money you're making. So I'll get into that a little bit later as I explain that. But moving down the line, we'll go back here. Let's go into estimates. So if I click on the estimate button over here, and I'll come over here as well and come over to estimates, you'll see the different estimates that I have on file right now, what's been submitted, what's been accepted. I can kind of scroll through. You can see some were lost. Actually, a lot of them were lost. I've been turning down a lot of jobs recently. But that's a quick snapshot of kind of what the estimates are, what they look like. As a part-time guy, I get a lot of leads come in. I got to turn them over to other people. That's why I lose a lot of my leads. Just don't have the time, or I'm like, hey, I'm 2 months out, and then they end up going somewhere else. But if you come on the other side here, you'll see the same thing. It's just more detail, more information of kind of what's going on there. I'm not going to click into them just because I don't want to give away some of the personal information, addresses, and whatnot. But I guess one example that I will give, if I wanted to create a new estimate, let me hide this. I should have hid that a while back. If I want to create a new estimate, you see this little plus button. If I come down here and hit that plus button on the app, it's going to ask me what I want to create, a standard options or a package estimate. I primarily run standard estimates, so I hit the standard estimate button. And what's going to happen is I can hit this, a list of all my customers will pop open. So I can select whatever customer I want to have. I'm sorry, fat fingering that a little bit. So I could select which customer I wanted to have. Once I select the customer, the job location pops up. Then I can come down and I can start adding the services and all the other details that I want. Markate has really good videos on this. If you go to their help site, or even if you just Google creating a service estimate, a material estimate, or product estimate, there's a lot of detail on that. So I won't get into the mechanics of doing that. I think you can figure that out, or you can look back at some of my older videos, or if you're like, hey, that's what I really want, go ahead and drop a comment down below, and I'll get into that. Okay, so as we move out of that, I'm kind of going from top to bottom. It's not necessarily the way that I flow when I do jobs. I normally get an estimate, convert that estimate into a, excuse me, into a work order. I'm trying to minimize this thing if I can. There we go. So what I normally do, if I go back to my home screen here, I normally will receive an inquiry, it'll pop into my leads. I'll create the estimate. They'll accept the estimate. I'll create a work order. I'll schedule it, and then I'll invoice. So the flow you see here, I don't like the way it's flown out. And Markate, if you're looking at this, I would recommend reorganizing this along the lines of the flow. And the flow is inquiry. So it should be like this. Maybe on this side, it would be inquiry or leads, down to estimates, down to work orders, down to schedule, down to invoice. That should be the flow. And I like to see it horizontally, to be honest with you. I'm not going to redo your whole app, but as I go through this, it may be a little confusing if you're brand new to this, like, whoa, man, there's stuff all over the place. Who laid it out like this? I don't know why they laid it out that way. It's just the way that it's laid out. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to kind of work my way top down, right? So we talked about the dashboard, we talked about expenses, we talked about estimates. Now let's talk about schedule. So assuming you created an estimate, assuming they accepted it, you created a work order, I like to schedule that work order. So if I click on my schedule button, and I come over here and I click on my schedule as well, you will see that this is what my schedule looks like for this month, right? So all the jobs that I have lined up, the ones that I've done, a little green dot indicates how many jobs I have that particular day. Again, as a part-time guy, I'm usually working Fridays and Saturdays, maybe a weeknight here and there, a few hours. But that's what the schedule looks like, right? So you can go back in time, you could scroll through, you could see all the jobs that you've had. Same thing on both sides. You could just kind of scroll through. So it's nice. The other nice feature about this is that it's synced up to my Apple Calendar. So on my Apple Calendar, which I won't bore you with, but if I open that up, all of these jobs are replicated there as well. So my wife, if she's trying to plan something, she knows I have jobs coming up on Saturday or Friday. So it really helps out with that work-life balance, so that she can see what's going on. And there's features within here, within the settings, and you have to do this within the desktop version, but if you go in there in the settings, you can make sure that it syncs to your iCalendar or your Google Calendar, depending on what you're using. Other than that, there's really nothing spectacular about that. If you wanted to create a new scheduled event, you hit the plus button down here. You can have an event, you can create a new work order, it could be a task, you just block off time, kind of whatever works best for you. These things are kind of really intuitive when it comes to the scheduling. So this stuff, I feel pretty confident you'll be able to figure it out. Then as we move down the line, down here we have customers. This is just what it says, right? It's just a list of your customers. And if I come over here, customers is buried over the sales icon. So if I come over here to my customers, you can start to see all of my customer information over here. So this is just a running list of all the customers that you've worked with over time. So if you need to go back and refer to them. Plus another little thing that I'll point out about customers is if you go in and if you choose a particular customer, let let me just choose, I'll choose one here. You can see a history of all of the work that you've done for them. So if I come over here to maybe estimates, you'll see whatever, actually I didn't create any estimates for him. Maybe you'll see invoices, right? Any of the invoices that I've created, you'll see what those invoices were. So it's a nice spot to kind of see everything you've done for somebody. Every once in a while, I have a homeowner, usually a landlord, that will reach out to me and say, hey, do you have a list of all the invoices you gave me this year? And I'll be like, yeah, here you go. And I'll open them up. I'll just re-forward them to them, real simple stuff. So it works out really good. Okay, going back to the home screen here. And sorry, I apologize, bear with me. Okay, so back on the home screen here, we're gonna move up now to Route Planner. I don't use the Route Planner, and to be honest with you, I don't know if they even have it in here in this side. They may. Again, I don't use it, but this is the thing. If you're doing a lot of jobs in one day, it'll help you kind of figure out the routing of which jobs to go to. Again, I usually have one or two jobs, so I don't use that feature, but I want to make you aware that it is in there. The next feature would be leads. So you have leads here. Again, if I come over to the desktop, you'll see, I believe they have it over here, its own separate button. I'm just getting notified as leads are coming in. I don't use the whole pipeline stuff. Again, I'm not running a whole bunch of clients. If people are, again, I would recommend going into the help button here to see how to use this maybe a little bit more to your advantage. But the bottom line is you can see where your leads are. You know, are they brand new leads? Are they waiting on something? Have you lost it? Have you followed up? Whatever it may be. You can do that in the leads function here. I do everything here on this side. I go over to here. I open it up, I work with it from there, and then I'm done. One interesting thing, I guess this one is still open. So I'll normally, if I get a lead, I will, as soon as the lead comes in, I'll text them back. I'll either text them back directly from Markate, or usually I'll do it through Google Voice. But let me give you an example. If I go through Markate, so let me go back to my schedule here. Let me look at a previous job. So I just did this job the other day, some smoke detectors. So if I click on Marilyn's name here, you'll see this little icon up at the top, this little chat icon. That's the virtual number feature. So by using the virtual number feature, all of the details when I send estimates out, when I say I'm on my way to a job, when I send an invoice, it comes from this virtual voice number, which I have as an add-on to my Markate app. And then I can also text through that. So if I open that up, you can see a history of us texting back and forth through this. So once I have a customer on the line, I like to switch over to this version of it, using the virtual number to kind of keep in touch with them. It just gives me one number that I have to work with. And then if they text me, I can just pop right back in here and do stuff. And I have all their invoices, all their information. I wish this feature was a little bit more robust. I wish I I wish it was a little bit better. It's a little bit clunky, but it's enough that I can make it work. And it's about, I believe it's $10 a month I pay for that add-on feature. All right. So going back to the home screen, we talked about leads. Now let's go down to invoices. So again, my process is estimate, work order, schedule, invoice. So the way the flow works, and I'll open up an example. So my job this afternoon, when it's time for me to go over to my job, I'm going to, I don't like this thing. Okay, I'm going to go down to this arrival button that you see down here on the bottom, and I'm going to hit that button. It's right here, and I apologize. This thing is not allowing me to move around. All right, I'm going to come down to this arrival button. I'm going to hit that arrival button, and when I do that, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, you know, so and so, I'm on my way. Here's my name. This is all pre-programmed stuff within the settings, and I can select, you know, I'm going to be there in 20 minutes. I'm going to be there in 30 minutes, whatever it may be. I hit the check button up here, and it's going to notify the homeowner that I'm on my way over there, and it's going to go out through that virtual number that I mentioned earlier. Great feature. Just it makes the flow super smooth. So same thing. After that's done, once I get to the job, I'm going to hit the start button. And the cool thing about Markate is it's tracking your time in here. It's tracking, okay, when did you say you were leaving your house? So when did you say you're going to arrive? So once I arrive, I hit that start button. If all goes well, I just hit the complete button when I'm done. And when I hit that complete button, it's going to pop up and say, here's a notification to let the homeowner know you're complete. Do you want to create, send out an invoice? And if you select yes, what's going to happen, if I go back to my invoices here, is something like this is going to pop up, right? So this is an invoice. This is actually a paid invoice, so the pop-up will be slightly different. But what's going to happen is the invoice will pop up. It's going to give me an option of, do I want to pay the invoice now, meaning that they gave me cash or check, or do I want to send it to them electronically? And if I hit send it to them electronically, whatever cell phone number or email that they have on file will pop up, and it'll go directly to them. They just get a pay now button. They hit it, I get paid, and it's a done deal. So it's a real smooth process. I like that. I really like that function of doing that. If I come over here to the invoices side of here, same thing. You could do it all here from the desktop. I just like the smoothness and the ease of doing it directly from the desktop version. And what, if you're curious of, well, what's in the invoice? What happens is your estimate becomes your work order, and your work order becomes your invoice. So if you add things along the way, so let's say you have an estimate and you got to the site, and the work order, they want some additional work. Well, then you go into that work order and you add that additional work. Now, that work order will be different than the estimate that you provided, right? Because there's a slight difference. No big deal, right? It's captured there. Then let's say you finished a work order and then you're ready to go to invoice. And then when you give it to the customer, they say, hey, I saw you have a real nice hammer out there. Can I buy that hammer off of you for another $10? You say, oh yeah, sure. So you can go into the invoice and you can add that hammer, add $10 to it. So now your estimate was different than your work order, which was different than your invoice, but it doesn't matter. All the information, the customer address, all that stuff was added, and you can see that flow and that change because you could just go in there. If I were to go to an invoice that hasn't been paid yet, I can go in there and I can hit a modify button. I can't do it with one that's been closed out already, but for one that hasn't been closed out, I can edit and change that. So I do those types of changes frequently. People ask me to add stuff, people ask me to remove stuff. And to me, that's the easiest way of doing it. So it's a great feature there. Work orders, there's really nothing different work orders, and there is really estimates. What a work order is, if you're new to this, is you may have multiple people. And you may be, let's say you get 10 leads, you get 10 estimates, 8 of those estimates are accepted. Now you have to convert those 8 estimates into work orders. And that's all you're doing. You're creating them into work orders. And if you're running a team, maybe you're giving 2 work orders to this person, 2 work orders to that person, so on and so on. If you're a single operator, then you're just getting all the work orders. So I just generate after the estimate's done. You can actually create it automatically after an estimate is accepted. You can just automatically turn it into a work order. Which is what I did most of the time. And now I like to just do it manually. It's just the way I like to do it. But you could do it either way that you want. And then once that work order is created, I just go in and I'll schedule that work order. So let me give you an example. If I have a work order here, I think this one is already scheduled. But if I came down here to the bottom, I could hit this little reschedule button. This only shows up once it's been scheduled. I can cancel the schedule, I can reschedule it, I can do a whole bunch of stuff in here. So if you're new to this and you're like, oh man, there's a lot of stuff to learn, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download this thing, especially like the free version, for a few weeks. And you're going to want to test it with yourself, right? So get a friend's email, or if you have multiple emails and cell phone numbers, just start putting yourself in there as a customer. And walk yourself through the process, right? Walk yourself through estimates, send it to yourself back and forth, see both sides, right? See the consumer, how your client's going to see things, and then see how it looks like from your business side. And that's how you kind of get to those growing pains, right? Because if you don't do that, you're going to start making all these changes, and your customers are going to be like, hey, why do you keep texting me? Why do you keep sending me all these notifications? Why did you cancel my schedule? And you're like, oh, I'm just testing my system. So don't test it on your clients, test it on yourself. Or if you want to reach out to me and be like, hey, can you help me test this thing out? Just drop a comment down below, give me your email or something, and we'll figure something out. I'll try to help you out. Or maybe we could do a group call. I'm not sure how to make that work, but that's something you're interested in, go ahead and let me know. And as I come down here, I'll click on the more button here. This just gives me a couple more things to look at. I can look at a couple of reports. I don't have employees. This is a feature that I use a lot, this share booking referral. So if I want to just copy my lead form or booking link, or if I want to refer somebody else, actually, I need to copy this one. So I brought a lot of people to Markate, and I haven't gotten a single referral yet. And I know some of you watch me use my link, but I don't know what's going on. Markate, if you're watching, come on, man. I'm making a lot of videos on your behalf. Show me a little bit of love. Um, but I'll copy this new link and drop it into the video below. So if you're getting anything out of this video and you want to give back to me a little bit, go ahead and use that link. I'll drop it down below and we can go from there. And if you have Markate and you want to spread the love as well, you'll have the same thing in your app as well. Then one other thing I'll show you, virtual estimator. I'll use this sometimes if I have a big linear foot job, right? So if I have a job at somebody's house and I need to measure out some things, if I can hit these um, things here, you can start to see it's taking measurements, right? So you can imagine if somebody calls you up and they have a fence and you can go onto Google Earth or map and you can see that fence. You can measure stuff out here and it'll give you the true measurements. A little hard to see here on the screen, but down in the bottom you'll see the distances that it's pulling up. So that can be helpful sometimes, especially if somebody's. I do a lot of trim repair and somebody will say, yeah, this is my house and yeah, I need the whole front done. I'll come in here, I'll measure this. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm thinking, and I'll use that as kind of a basis of my estimate. Don't do it too much, but it's there, and I figured I would make you aware of it. Um, and then finally, that's really all there is that I wanted to show you on the app. Again, I use it all the time. A couple things I want to touch on here within the desktop version was if I come back in here, if I come over to sales, and if I come over to work orders, this is a nice little feature. So if you want to get a snapshot of kind of where your work is being clustered, this is a feature they don't mention very much, but I like it, especially at the end of the year when I want to reflect back on things. So I'll come down here to this bird eye view, and in the bird eye view, I can see kind of a geographical map of the jobs that I've done. And if I want to look at like a span of time, so let's say I want to look back from February over to, not too far, over to here, all of the jobs that I've done since February will pop up in this window, right? So I can kind of see, okay, I'm clustering my jobs. My goal is to stay within a few miles of my house. My house is kind of right here in the middle. So I'm doing a pretty good job of this. I got a couple of clients that have been with me for a while. They're a little further out, but by and large, I'm clustering pretty good. So this helps me in managing my marketing and a few other things, and then just verifies that I'm not wasting too much time on traveling back and forth. I don't mess around with credits. Items is pretty decent. Like if you have certain things that you like to have when you're creating estimates, I have a new process that I'm doing estimates with. It's a combination of project-based stuff and then hourly time stuff. So for all my hourly job rates, when I go in, I create a new estimate. All the things that you see here, Handyman 1 hour, 2 hours, plus increments of 15, 30, and 45 minutes, I can just select really quick and it generates the price for me. So that's pretty good. If you have other things, ceiling fans, things like that, you can come in here and you can add those items as well. It helps you creating your estimates a little bit quicker. And then the other things I want to touch on is if you come over here to the More button, you can't get to this in the app, so you have to do it here within desktop. But clicking on More, you have some marketing options. So you have these email blasts, voicemail blasts, postcards on demand. I use the postcards on demand um, feature, especially during the holidays. I'll come in here. I have a video on it. You can search my channel and find that. But if you want to send out text messages or voicemails to your clients, you can come in here through their marketing tab and do that. It's pretty useful. It's very cost effective, I've found. Automation, I guess it's very similar to the marketing stuff. I haven't messed around with this too much. Reports, if you want to generate and read reports of what's going on, like if I wanted to see where most of my leads are coming from, I can go into my reports and see that. If you're connecting to QuickBooks and other types of things, you would make those connections in here. Just a side note on that, QuickBooks is a little bit tricky to integrate, so you probably have to reach out to somebody that's an expert in that field. If you join the Markate Facebook group, they have a couple of experts in there, so people that you can reach out to. I don't really run employees. The before and after picture feature is kind of useless. I use Canva for that. The share job feature, I'd like to use this, but it requires somebody else using Markate to have it, and then they have to accept the way they do estimates. So the idea is nice, the execution is not so nice. But if you're in an area where you know somebody else is using Markate and they're comfortable with your prices, if you create an estimate and a work order, you can send it over to them, and if they accept it, you can get paid. So the idea is nice, the execution is not so nice. Um, then the final thing I'll talk about here are the add-ons. So here you can go in, you can see what kind of add-ons they have, the lead contact form. I've had this one on for the longest time. I recently turned it off because I'm doing some things outside of here. Customer portal I turned on for a while. If you got repeat customers that you're doing work for very often, you're going to want to check out the customer portal. It basically gives them their own app that they can manage all their stuff, and it's a pretty good feature. I don't use a proposal kit. Ask for a review I have turned on. So as soon as I complete jobs, part of that process within the settings there is once I hit that invoice button, I think it's 30 minutes later, they'll get a text message. Can you please give me a review? They'll get a couple of follow-ons until kind of a review comes through. That's a great feature. Then the virtual number I mentioned before, I have that turned on. Call forwarding, I do not. Bring your own virtual number, I do not. Virtual video estimate, I do this with Facebook Marketplace or Apple FaceTime if I have to. I don't do it too often, so I don't turn that feature on. Then if you add employees, you can have some other features in there. So anyway, hopefully this has been somewhat useful to you. This is a general kind of high level overview of Markate. Sorry, picture my family there. Anyway, this is a high level. I got good looking kids and a good looking wife. So it's a high level view of Markate. I haven't made a Markate video in a while, so I wanted to touch on some of those features, kind of what's available, what's out there. If you're looking for a CRM, I like Markate. I don't get paid for them by them to say this. I'm not like these jobber guys. The jobber guys are getting a lot of money thrown at them to switch over to Jobber. Marquette doesn't throw out a lot of money to influencers or anybody else. It's kind of a grassroots movement. And quite honestly, I've been happy with the product. It does what I need it to do. It's a reasonable cost, and I'm pretty happy with it. I also like the support that they have within the Facebook group. So if you're looking for a CRM, this may be a good bet for you. I would recommend checking out Jobber, checking out House Call Pro, checking out a bunch of the other ones that are out there, kind of see what works for you. I plan to stick with this until something changes my mind. If you seem like next week I'm a Jobber guy, it's because they threw me thousands of dollars. Just kidding. I don't plan on switching to Jobber, but if that does happen, that's exactly what happens. So if you have any questions about this kind of stuff, go ahead, drop a comment down there below. If you like this kind of content, if you get useful information out of it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Hit that share button, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks. Bye.